back, ladies and gentlemen, to the Whatnauts review show. This is episode 108. This week, we are going to be talking about Speed Racer. It's going to be pretty exciting. My name is Kyle Springer, and I am joined, as always, by Melissa Wilkinson. Melissa, how are you?
I'm okay, Kyle. How are you doing?
Pretty good. Finally got some sleep last night because the night before I stayed up till like 6 a.m.
Yeah?
trying to make my new PC. Still not done. I need one more part. Once I get that part, which should be here tomorrow, then it'd be good to go.
Cool.
Thing all up, and hopefully, and it'll be good to go.
That's exciting.
Doing all this on a new PC. Yeah. That's fun.
Yeah.
Good. It's been challenging because I have no idea what I'm doing. This is my first PC that I'm building, so it's been a learning experience. Good.
Yeah. It's fun to develop a new skill. I just bought a new vacuum cleaner, and all I need to do is take it out of the box and put it together, and then clean things. Yeah.
There you go. Well, let's see. Each week here on the review show, we have a different story to talk about. It could be a comic book, movie, TV show, anime, manga, something else. We rate it, watch it, do what we have to do. Come back here and talk about it. Like I mentioned, Speed Racer.
Mm-hmm.
We are talking about this.
The 2008 film from the Wachowskis, that Speed Racer.
Indeed, yeah. So I kind of pitched this one because you reminded me of it.
Yeah.
You recently got a new TV
Uh-huh.
as well, and you were like, I want to watch visually stunning movies and stuff. And I immediately thought, oh, she's going to pitch Speed Racer because I know she likes that film.
Mm-hmm.
And it is like this really brightly colored, lit, just like it's visually stunning. Whether you like it or not,
Yeah.
it's visually stunning.
Mm-hmm.
And so I was like, oh, she's absolutely gonna pitch Speed Racer, and then you didn't.
Well, my theme was animation because I'd broken in my TV with some dazzling, the animated characters.
Sure, yeah.
Those are all real people. John Goodman's a real man. Yeah, I broke in my TV with some very pretty movies. Like I watched Doctor Strange, I watched Inception, but it was a run of live action ones. I'm like, let's get some pretty animation in here. So last week we watched Satoshi Kon's Paprika, and then you turned it back on me like, I don't know why you wouldn't nominate Speed Racer.
Let's go with Speed Racer.
Because you hadn't seen it.
Yeah, no, I have not. This was the first time that I watched it. I had heard a lot about it. I had heard it was very polarizing, just different people's reactions to the way it was shot, the CGI in the film, all of that stuff. Some people really didn't like it and was just like, it looks strange, it's off-putting, I can't really get into it. And then some people were just like, this is exactly what Speed Racer is. Like,
yeah.
It's so wacky, it's in your face, it's just slightly awkward because it wasn't the American version of Speed Racer, wasn't that like an English dub of another Japanese cartoon or something that wasn't the exact same thing, like they like made up their own story or something?
I don't like a Power Rangers where they just took the footage and edited it back together? I'm not sure. But I know the original Speed Racer was, if not the first, one of the couple first anime that was brought over to the US. Mm-hmm. And the dub was quite poor. I mean, this is you remember that one episode of Dexter's Lab titled Mach 5 that's just a parody of the Speed Racer dub when everybody's talking weird and the lip flaps don't match and the pacing is off and everyone's yelling.
Yeah, that's kind of what I imagine Speed Racer as. And so I can see that like people would be like, they nailed it. Like this is exactly how awkward Speed Racer is. So it was a lot of fun watching it for my first time.
Yeah, I was surprised you hadn't seen it before because it seems like a Kyle movie because you like it's one of the most neon films ever made.
Yeah, for sure. Or,
do you like race cars? You keep telling me about Initial D.
I'm actually not a car person. I don't know anything about cars. I don't have a car. I just like Initial D. It's really fun. But yeah, it's good. So let's see. Let's do a synopsis.
Okay.
For people who might not know what this film is about, or just have like a vague, I kind of know what the cartoon is, but what is this movie about?
Okay. For starters, his name is literally Speed Racer.
Yes.
His parents named him this. The Racer family looked at their precious baby boy and said, Speed will be his name.
Speed will be his name. You know, there is a producer on the CW Flash, not cartoon, the show, live action show, whose name is Speedweed.
Wow.
Yeah. Great name. It's up there with Dick Wolf. Right? Dick Wolf, Speedweed.
So Speed, he is born into a racing family. His older brother is a racer. His family's all mechanics. He grows up with this dream of being a tremendous racer. And his older brother dies in a race. His older brother splits away from the family, races with another company, dies in this terrible race when Speed's a kid. So now he's an adult, he's racing, and he's got this legacy of his brother kind of following him around. Mm-hmm. The memory of him trying to meet his skill, honor his skill, and he's really rising up.
Kind of clear his family's name too.
Yeah, because nobody looks upon Racer Motors very positively. It's all these big corporations, and they're this literal mom and pop joint.
Yeah.
And so he's trying to make a good name for the family under their company, and they're approached by this big corporation. It's like, that's how I started as a little company. I respect you. I think I still see myself on the same level. Let's partner up together. So it's about Speed trying to win races, navigate the whole corporate field around racing with all the sponsorships and partnerships and all that. Mm-hmm. And he gets embroiled into the various conspiracies and secret plans that are there to fix the races. And he's there to show him, I'm not here for any of your schemes and machinations. I just want to go real fast and be honest about it.
Yeah. So he's kind of dealing with that and struggling with like, what is the next right move for me? If we do go the corporate route, I can take care of my family. We'll have more money. We'll have sponsors, all that stuff. If I don't and I stay with my mom and pop, probably won't win as many races. We won't have the money to fix the car up if something bad happens. But it'll be honest, and it'll be supporting my family and stuff like that in that way.
Yeah, and he's very passionate about racing, and he talks about how much he wants to win because if you win, that means you get to race more. Like, he's not out for success in and of itself. He just knows that success means I get to keep doing this job that I love. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So we kind of already mentioned it, but just the way this film is shot and the way it's acted is different. To put it mildly.
It is extremely stylized. A lot of the movie is on green screen with entirely CGI backgrounds, but very stylized, cartoonish CGI backgrounds. Yeah. Everything is just the brightest colors possible. Yep. It is a living cartoon, and there's no physics to anything. The cars just like flip and tumble around.
Spin around. Yeah, they'll do all sorts of stuff.
It's
like
preposterous.
I do have to say that I think this is maybe one of the best interpretations I've seen of a like comic book or cartoon come to life.
Yeah.
Not in a like oh, this was the dark gritty reboot that I've been waiting for. It was so good, the drama, the characters, amazing. Like it's more of a visual representation. This is one of, if not the best, like visual representations of what those kind of like early 60s 70s cartoons would look like if they were a live action cartoon. So yeah, which is why it's polarizing, because it's weird to watch, but it's fascinating.
It is. And we were talking about this movie last week, and I told you I've seen this movie a couple times, and I said I still don't know what's going on, but the movie makes me not care that I don't understand the plot of it, which is still true. It made more sense to me this time, but I still couldn't exactly tell you every character and every character's motivation and exactly how the plot moves around. I don't know if this movie is the best narrative winner, but visually and emotionally, it knocks it out of the park. This is such a heartfelt, sincere movie.
It's actually a pretty simple plot. It's just, like it's covered up with all of these effects and the stylization of all of this stuff, and it's the plot is really not what the movie's about. It's more about the emotional weight and stuff. Like it's more about the emotional journey and the emotional story that's happening with the Racer family.
Mm-hmm. So. Yeah, which is why I always come away from this like, I pay attention to the family drama. I get the family drama, but if you ask me like, well, what is this one Japanese racing corporation up to? I'm like, I don't know, bad stuff. I don't totally get all of the conglomerate players in the story.
Gotcha. We'll get to that in just a sec. Let's do some housekeeping, and then we will get into our spoiler territory for you all. If you guys did not know, we have multiple podcasts here at the Whatnauts. You guys can find more information on our website, thewhatnauts.com, as well as your favorite podcasting platform of choice. Just type in the Whatnauts, and our shows will pop up right there. If you guys like what we do, patreon.com/thewhatnauts is where you can support us. You guys can get our episodes early. You guys can get some exclusive content, which you and I just filmed some new exclusive content for the Reactor Core, which is one of our podcasts. I'm going to be putting all that stuff up later today, so be on the lookout for that by the time this goes live and out to the public. Let's see, what else? At our Patreon, our $5 tier, we would also like to give big shout-outs on the show. So thank you, Sam.
Thank you.
Helping us out. Yep, and keeping the mics on. We appreciate it a lot. But I think that's about it for housekeeping right now. I should also mention that we did a new episode of the Reactor Core on Scoob.
Yeah, the Reactor Core.
Scoob.
It's a podcast where we do kind of what we do here on the review show, but it's for hot, brand new things, like a movie that's just come out in theaters or VOD as it is right now. Yeah. Blockbusters, when a new show drops and you're like, I am going to watch all of this in the next 2 or 3 days. Here I go. Yeah, we just sort of walk through those narratives. It's a little bit more recappy than this show is. This one's a little bit more freeform. Because of the nature of the show, it doesn't come up terribly often. So this is our first new episode in a couple months. Last one was Birds of Prey. Yeah,
which is
Scoop.
Also a fantastic one.
Both fun, very different.
Indeed. Let's see. I think that's about it for housekeeping. So let's get into spoilers. graphic worked, kind of.
Kind
It's
of.
chugging along a little bit there. I'm working on building a new PC, so hopefully that won't be an issue much longer.
Mm.
Okay, we're in
I
spoiler zone though.
What is your experience seeing this movie for the first time?
Well, all right. So to be honest, I think I ended up very middling on the film.
Okay.
And I think that's more a symptom of like I knew it was polarizing going in, and I knew people either had this like very extreme negative reaction or very extreme positive, and I was like, okay, well, I know there's both of them, so I kind of know what to expect. Like, it's going to be different. It's going to be awkward. It's going to be bright lights, fast pace, going fast. You know. And so there were some things that I was like, this is ridiculous. This is so over the top. Like, I don't know if I would really like this. Like, if I had gone to see this in theaters, there are certain bits that I was just like, yeah, this is really off-putting. Like, I don't get the choices here. Like, I mean, I do, and I like it in the sense that it is a cartoon come to life. But I don't know. But then there were certain things. There's a fight scene, like 3/4 of the way through, that I loved. I was like, this is awesome. This is so good.
I don't know which fight scene you're talking about, but I do want to stop and illustrate for a moment. There is a part of the movie where a bunch of ninjas come in and attack the Racer family. And John Goodman beats up a ninja. He plays Pops, the dad, of course. Who else could he be? And then Speed's girlfriend Trixie comes in and says, "Was that a ninja?" And he says, "More like a nanja." Shocking what passes for a ninja these days. And then she says, "Cool beans."
Cool. Yeah. Cool
so
beans.
just letting you know, this is the kind of movie you're dealing with.
It's like that moment in particular is terrible writing. It's horrible. But it's so funny because of it.
That's what it's trying to do. Okay, so I've brought this up on the podcast before. One of my favorite other podcasts is Blank Check. This is by David Sims and Griffin Newman, who you remember as Arthur from the Amazon Prime version of The Tick we watched recently. Yeah. It's a movie podcast that covers directors' filmographies, and they did a series on the Wachowskis several years ago. And I'm listening to their Speed Racer episode yesterday, and they talk about how the Wachowskis elected to not adapt the original Japanese source material, which I imagine made slightly more sense, was less stilted than the American dub version. But no, they picked the American dub version. Like, it's all the American dub names. They are going for that.
That's kind of what we know it for, though. Like,
yeah, but they're also going for like
this. It's like
they're going for the style of that movie of the dub too. Like, it is so intense. It is stilted. It is awkward, but it is so, again, sincere and inspiring and eager. That's what they wanted to do. Yeah. So having lines like, "I was a ninja, cool beans," like that fits the bill. That fits exactly the model they are going for. It is effective in that. It's preposterous, but it's not effective.
Yeah, I think overall, I was just like, okay, I'm kind of in the middle with this. Not necessarily something I would put up there on like my favorites or stuff like that, but I get what it was going for. I appreciated it, but yeah, I don't know, there's certain things it's just like, this is so weird, so strange, but it works in its own weird weird cartoonish way.
It is a film entirely in a class on its own. I haven't seen this in several years, and so the movie starts, you see Speed Racer, like he's in the locker room getting ready for a race, and then it flashes back to him as a little kid, like in his classroom. He's supposed to be taking a test, and he's like drawing race cars all over the test papers. He fills in the Scantron bubble so that it just reads "Go, Rex, go," which is the name of his older brother. Like he's drawing the race cars. He imagines himself inside the race car, which is a cool animated bit because it looks like he is inside a crayon drawing.
Yeah.
It's all indoor sets, brightly colored, but real physical sets. You could touch that brightly colored, silly cartoon classroom wall. But then it cuts to his older brother is outside school going to pick him up. And there's a man and a car and an entirely CGI like cartoon background. It looks like they're in Spy Kids 3D. I'm like, oh, I forgot that's how strong this movie operates.
Yeah.
It's an interesting juxtaposition that we live in this world, but then the characters, like they're, like there are the awkward bits where somebody's like, oh, cool beans and ninja. But it also feels very grounded. I mean, the parents of the movie are John Goodman and Susan Sarandon, the most believable, grounded, down-to-earth people you could ever get. They sell it. Everybody sells it. Like all this mix of things, I think, works in that it's like, yeah, it's a cartoon. And it's a cartoon we feel 100% with our whole hearts. And all the emotions behind it are going to be completely real.
To me, it reminds me of like a seismograph thing where like there's the earthquake or something and it just goes back and forth and back and forth. And that's exactly what you have in this film. You have some stuff that is just completely ridiculous CGI, like cartoonish background. And then, you have like John Goodman, who's the dad, and who is just this like very normal performance for the most part. And, it's just, it's you get this like whiplash of going back and forth.
Yeah, just like a race itself.
Reminded me of
what?
I forget the name of it now, but the show that you and I watched, I think like a year and a half ago with Lee Pace, and he's
Pushing Daisies?
Yes.
Yeah, I see that. Yeah, that's another show with a very heightened style to it where it's got a lot of very elaborately lots of CGI backgrounds. Like one thing this movie has, I don't think you ever see a real sky. Every sky is computer generated to have these big, fluffy, white, like picture perfect clouds in it.
Yeah.
Yeah, Pushing Daisies did have a similar vibe to it. Yeah.
Yeah, so let me start talking about that fight scene that I mentioned. That was, I think, the moment in the film that I was like, this is amazing. This is really cool. The fight scene I'm talking about takes place like 3/4 of the way through the movie. It's in the middle of a race. They go to this part that's more like a canyon / valley, except there's no grass there. It's like this barren, kind of grayish black rocks and stuff. And it's like the racer family. It's the Japanese racing company. It's the corporation that Speed is maybe thinking of racing for, and stuff like that. And it's just this like all out bananas fight scene, but it is one of the more cartoonish scenes in the movie, but it's in a moment in the film where it all makes sense. It makes sense for a fight scene to be ridiculous and over the top, and it works so well. It's just like it's so stupid, the things that are happening, but it's all just chaos.
Yeah, like it is a fight scene with like 12 people in it. Like it's a big fight scene and it's a silly fight scene because we've got Speed's little brother Spritle in there and Chim Chim, the family chimpanzee that they have, because of course they do. Like they're just like crawling over some thug and like trying to beat him up the way a child and a chimpanzee would. Like it's very silly, slapsticky fighting, and it's snowing at the same time. Yeah. And the snow kind of like legitimizes it. Like it's this very beautiful snow, and it makes you think of like a samurai movie or something.
it has that, but then when they do like certain punches or certain kicks, it
Yeah.
has this really like this comic book effect where it does the like speed lines
Yeah,
and
yeah.
stuff like that. But it like usually when you see something like that in film, when they're like, hey, we're taking inspiration from comics
Mm.
or something like that, you see something like in iZombie, if you guys have seen that show on the CW, or I don't remember what network it was on, but if you guys saw The Cape, there was this like really bad superhero TV show
Oh,
called The
yeah.
Cape.
It might have been an NBC.
Yeah, it might have been. Uh, but they do this thing where when there's a new scene or like a new chapter, so to speak, right? It starts out with a comic book page, and it's just they took that frame of the TV show, like put it in Photoshop to like make it look like it's a comic book and stuff like that, and then it fades out to that actual scene like that. That's
Yeah.
typically what they do, and I'll be honest, I don't really like that stuff all that much. I think it's really cheesy. I think it's bad, and it just, I don't know. I don't think it works in the way that they're hoping it
Mm-hmm.
works. And I think this fight scene is pulling on a lot of that same inspiration, but using it in ways that absolutely work with the rest of the film. It's like
Mm-hmm.
this whole thing has been ridiculous,
Yeah.
but it's not the standard like meanwhile, and it has that and it like fades into
Yeah,
all
it's
that
not
stuff.
that
It's like,
exactly.
okay, that's crazy, but yeah, it is this like stylized fight scene with speed lines when they punch someone, and this awkward slow motion stuff. It's not quite the bullet time stuff that they did when they made the
Mm-hmm.
Matrix, but it's this like, I don't know. The whole thing was just like, this is fun. Like I like
Exactly.
this.
It's fun. And the movie is not like, look at this stuff, isn't it cool? It's like, look at this stuff, isn't it fun? Like, it's just
Yeah,
delightful. Like, it's like there's no pretense to the thing. It's
yeah,
very earnest.
yeah. So I think that scene in particular really made this film for me. It was like, that scene, great scene, good scene.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Um, I think something else that stood out to me, that I really liked about this, but is also another example of that whiplash, is
Mm-hmm.
when you go from the like mom and pop racer garage to when you see
Mm-hmm.
the cities and stuff.
Yeah.
Like the cities are these like skyscrapers, darker, kind of more sci-fi, cyberpunk looking stuff, whereas the like mom and pop stuff was just brightly colored, like
Mm-hmm.
green. Like if you can picture like when someone says the American dream, like white picket fence, like perfect yard, it's that. But then like saturated, like
Yeah.
up 20%, like it's that. And then to see this like Jetsons style
Mm-hmm.
like headyscape, this is such a weird contrast, but I like it.
Mm-hmm.
If you guys have also seen the Battle Angel
Oh.
movie, the headyscape also kind of reminds me of that when they get into like
Oh.
racing stuff.
Mm-hmm.
That one.
Okay, I haven't seen
Yeah.
Angel Alita, but I mostly know Robert Rodriguez from his pivotal work on the Spy Kids movies. And this,
Yeah.
as I said earlier, this movies did give me like this gave me a Spy Kids vibe, kind of, in that it is like a lot of cartoonish CGI backgrounds.
Yeah.
For that reason, it is a cartoonish CGI background supposed to be that cartoonish. It's supposed to be this heightened, delightful, like candy colored childhood fantasy where like kids get to like have gadgets and like go on adventures and race
Indeed,
cars and things like that. They've got kind of a similar vibe to them.
So I liked that. Those I think were the things that like stood out to me. I was like, oh, that's cool. So, go ahead.
Watching the movie this time, I was really struck by how it plays around with its narrative and how things are structured. Like the opening scene of the movie, the last like 15-20 minutes, like it's a good chunk of an opening scene. Like I said, you see Speed in the locker room getting ready for a race. It flashes back to he's a kid in school. He can't concentrate on his test because he's too excited about the race. You see the teacher like talking to his mom. He's not even in the room. It's a separate cut to them. And the teacher's like, I don't know where your boy's going to go in life if all he can think about is racing. Like you see his older brother pick him up from school and drive him around through this cartoon world. Like it's cutting to all of that stuff, and it's cutting to like he is in the race. So he's in the race. He's racing. This is like a track his older brother was on, and like he's being he's driving alongside the ghostly image of his brother's car, and it's like a question of like, will he meet his brother's time? Will he meet his brother's time? Because his brother was like, Rex did this race better than anybody else. He's made like the record time on this racetrack. So you're watching the race, you're watching Speed inside the car, you're watching his family in the stands watching him. You're flashing back to Speed's past. You're flashing back to the family's past, watching Speed grow up. Like you see him you see Trixie looking at him and remembering her being a little kid in the same classroom, admiring him, like, oh, he's so into racing. Look at him, he's so passionate.
That scene was really funny though too, because she makes eye contact with Speed when they're younger kids. Speed crashes, and then she goes to rescue him, and she's like, "Speed, are you okay?" And he's just like, "Who are you?" Like, I don't even know you.
Right,
like,
he's so focused.
Class.
He's so focused on racing, like he has not even noticed her.
But then the very next that, like he wiped out. He's on the on the ground, and he's like, "Are you okay, Speed?" And he's like, "Who are you?" But the next thing that he says is, "Do you want to see my race car collection?" And she's just like, "Okay." It's just like, this is ridiculous.
It's so sweet though, and so earnest. I like that. Oh, I always like that we go way back romance. Just like we've been a pair forever. It's always been us. It's always going to be us. We may not be as overtly romantic, but like we are the best guy and the best gal, and like we have each other and we always will. That kind of stuff I always dig. But yeah, this first opening bit of the movie cuts through so many different timelines, so many different perspectives. And that's the opening. Like, this is how the movie starts. You're already being bombarded with all of these visuals and all of these different, like, it's a narrative that goes through like 15 years and like 6 different characters. Like, it's so dense immediately. Like, this is how the movie sets you up. And it's effective. I think it gets better like the more times you've seen the movie and you're not quite as overwhelmed. Like you kind of know what it's dealing with and how it operates. But I can't, like watching this, I'm like, I love this, but I can't understand how this is too much for people. They're like, I can't follow this. I can't suspend my disbelief enough.
There's all
I'm
those
out.
like faces wiping.
And then you've got all the stuff I described, and then you also have every race announcer, and they're filmed in
multiple languages and
which is kind of neat. I liked what an international film this was. Like racing is a huge international sport, so every time you're at a race, there is like at least 3 different languages of announcers that you're cutting to, and they're not subtitled.
No.
And it's like, well, you don't really need to know what they're saying. You get the vibe of it,
the excitement.
Yeah, like look how excited they are about this race. Just the emotion behind it is all you need. Like the film itself, it's like it doesn't matter what it's about, like mentally. It's about what it's about emotionally.
So I did kind of want to talk about the plot for a
Mm.
little bit here, just so we can kind of clear that up. Uh, it's so I think at its core, like we said, it is more about the emotional, like family
Mm.
drama and stuff like that. There is a really neat scene I think we can circle back around to, that shows Rex leaving,
Mm-hmm.
and then down the road towards the end of the film, that exact same scene happens again, but this time it's Speed,
Yeah.
which was a good parallel. But uh, the whole thing is, yeah, that like Speed is he is like starting to reach stardom. So all the
Mm-hmm.
corporations and sponsors are starting to take note and be
Yeah.
like, "Hey, we want to sponsor you. You should come race for
Mm.
for us," and stuff like that. And he's weighing the options to do that or not. But he finds out that they are a little more threatening than what he was
Mm-hmm.
expecting. He ends up taking the sponsorship, just so he can protect his family. But very quickly, he also finds out that all of these like championship races that he grew up watching, they've all been fixed.
Mm.
They weren't this like pure racing sport that he's always imagined it to be. And so he's kind of had the wool pulled over his eyes.
Mm.
And within those races being fixed, it's all of these corporations kind of vying for power and stuff like that. Like, hey, we want our corporation to win this race, and so it's more a sport of corporations than it
Mm.
is of race cars. And I think where that Japanese company fits in is they they know that this stuff is being fixed. I don't think they're as powerful yet to weigh in, and so I think they're trying to both like get themselves in a position to fix the races, but also we see him kind of working with Racer X, who is
Mm-hmm.
trying to undermine this entire thing and like
Yeah.
make it not so that they're fixed.
Yeah,
Um,
spoiler alert, that is Rex. He faked his death in a crash, got plastic surgery. So
yeah,
he's a different guy. And like Speed thinks he's figured it out because Racer X always wears this mask. And Speed's like, "You're my brother, aren't you? You faked your death, didn't you?" And then Racer X takes off the mask and Speed's like, "Oh, no, I guess I was mistaken. You're not Rex." And then later it's like, "Oh, I am Rex. My face just looks different now." It's really soapy.
it's soap opera-y. It's also like old sci-fi comics. There's like
Yeah.
like sci-fi and horror comics. It's
Mm.
kind of Twilight Zoney, right?
I
What's
guess.
that one episode of the Twilight Zone where the woman gets
Oh.
plastic surgery and they're all just like, ooh, yeah, I don't know if we can really save the S one. Like it kind of went wrong. There's an accident. I
Mm.
think it's called Eye of the Beholder, and
Yes,
they
yes.
they they finally at the end of the episode take off her baby bandages, and you're expecting this like horrific, like
Uh-huh.
scarred face, and she is this like the most like beautiful woman you've ever seen, and then you realize you haven't seen the faces of the doctors yet, and it
Mm-hmm.
finally shows their faces, and they're the ones that are all like
Yeah.
horrific and scarred and like and all of that stuff, and she's just like, oh no, my face, it's terrible, it's ugly, oh my god.
Yep.
And
Classic.
it's kind of it's kind of like that scene where he has on these like bandages and stuff, and it's like it's this like dark moment where he's like, okay, I'm taking off the bandages. He takes them off, and he's Matthew Fox from Lost.
Yep.
It's really funny. Yeah, it's it's just this whole thing of like Racer X ended up faking his death to undermine all of these corporations, to return the sport to what it once was. And that's basically the plot.
I think I always lose track of exactly how that brother sister team fits into things.
Yeah.
Every time I'm like, I think I'm gonna get a proper handle on them this time. I think it's also that this movie's long. Like, this is like a 2-hour, 15-minute movie. Not terribly long, but very long for like a family film.
Yeah.
And I think by the time like the plot starts getting denser, I am fatigued, because I've been sitting there for a while, and it is a lot. It is so much, and I love how much this movie is. Yeah. But I do get a point where I'm like, I feel like I need to break. I need to get up and drink a glass of cold water and lie down and then come back.
Too fast. It was too fast. Yeah, like it's. And so let's circle back around to that one scene that I was talking about, because I think that's the actual plot of the film.
Yeah.
At the start of the film, I think shortly after we do the actual introduction of stuff, it kind of it ends with this scene where Rex kind of takes off in the middle of the night. But Pops is sitting there. He knows something was up. He knows something was about to happen. And he's like, hey, you walk out that door. Don't come back.
Mm-hmm.
Fine. Walks out.
Yeah.
And kind of see, as the movie continues, that Pops kind of feels guilty about what he did, because shortly after Rex left is when he supposedly died. And so he was like, oh man, I may have been too harsh on him. I just wanted him to know that, like, I thought he was making a mistake. Like, I didn't want to push him out and all of that stuff, and now I don't have the chance to tell him that. And like, as we're discovering that, we learn that Speed is now kind of discovering the same things that he discovered. He's like, well, I can make more money, I could take care of my family. Oh, but wait, everything is fixed. I don't like that.
I do want to stop and tell you that Speed is always, the entire family is always hesitant to take Royalton is the name of this company man with this big racing conglomerate. They're always hesitant about taking his deal. I think at the very initial meeting, they're like, oh, okay. But the more they see, they're like, we don't know. And Speed's like, I don't think. And then, can I have, politely is like, could I have some time to think about it? And he comes back and he's like, no, I don't want this. And that's when Royalton threatens him and like tells him like, oh, everything, you'd have to take the deal. You would be a fool not to take the deal because everything is fixed. You're never going to win unless we are making you win.
Yeah.
Here's everything we've ever fixed in the past. And like Speed leaves in disgust. Like, he's never tempted to go over there, but he does kind of, like, he wants to tear it down. I think he goes from like, I want to race to I want to race. He goes from I want to race like for myself because I love racing to he still wants to do that, but he's like, I'm racing with a bigger goal now, which is to like break down every plan they have set up to kind of infiltrate and destroy this entire fixing operation. So when he leaves, it is with the goal of doing that. To kind of act like maybe he's part of another team, but he never sincerely is.
And we're not told necessarily explicitly, but you can kind of infer that this is a similar thing that happened to his brother.
Yeah,
That
yeah. His brother was
learned
also
all these
never
things were fixed.
tempted.
Yeah, and so
Yeah.
he was just like, okay, well, I need to do something about this. And so yeah, by the end of the film, we get this parallel scene that I think is like the emotional crux of the film, or at least for Pops, where Speed is kind of sneaking out in the middle of the night, and Pops is sitting there waiting for him, and you think it's gonna be the like, hey, you walk out that door, and that's it. But he's just like, son, we need to talk.
Yeah.
Like, I'm not gonna stop you. We're gonna sit and talk. Yeah, he has that like fatherly moment where he's like, look, I don't agree with what you're about to do. I think it's a mistake, but I know you have good intentions. And so yeah, there is this like father son, like, I don't agree, but I'll support you. And then the son is like, well, I'm also not doing it because I want to, like, all of this, like, it's, yeah. So it's like, okay, I think they can see eye to eye now, and that I think helps him out a ton.
Yeah, I love that scene. I love that Pops has realized his mistake. It seems like from the scene where Rex has died and you see Mom comforting Speed as he's crying, and she like looks over to Pops, like the look on his face is like, I screwed up. I should not have chased our older son away. And like he's carried that with him, and he's like, I regret that. I should not have done that. I'm not making the same mistake again. Speed, I can't always see what you're seeing, but I believe in you. You can always come back here. Like, I'm never going to chase you out of the family like I did to Rex. And I love that it's like they don't try and put metaphor on it. It's not like, well, I did this thing and this shows that I love you. It's like, no, they're literally both going to say, I love you, and hug each other.
Yeah.
I like that they're like, no, we're going for the clear, obvious thing, and it's not going to feel cheap or lazy. It's going to feel absolutely true to life and sincere.
Mm-hmm. Indeed. And I think after that moment, that's when the Racer X stuff starts taking more prominence, right? Where the whole mystery of who is this character? Why does he look like Cyclops from the X-Men when he comes back as a terrorist? That's strange. It's the exact same costume, Melissa. Like,
is this a comic book? Because I don't remember this from any of the movies.
Yeah, it's the like full like face mask that comes down to here, and it's the big X like on his forehead. It's the exact same suit. It's ridiculous. And yeah, and like that starts coming into the picture more, and I think we like the emotional weight then starts to shift to that, to the brothers that don't know that they're brothers, except they do. And yeah, it all comes to a head in what you think is gonna be this big reveal that that Racer X is actually his brother, because you've never seen his face, except you know that it's not the same
yeah, not the same actor.
Their mouth and nose look completely different. And yeah, he takes off his mask and he's like, "Waha! See, I am not your brother, haha!" And
the movie's not quite that extra. That's not what he's doing.
I don't know. It played out like that.
I would like to see a variant of the movie where every line is delivered like that.
It is eyes.
Haha!
Racer X. Haha!
40% of the movie's dialogue is haha!
Be fantastic. But yeah, like it's relating to a moment where you think that that is going to be the big reveal, and it's not. You're just like, oh, I've been hoodwinked. Aha! Um, and then like I don't know how long it is, but sometime down the road, no pun intended, you figure out that that big reveal actually was what you thought it
Mm,
was. There was just another layer to unwrap there.
yeah, much like
Again,
bandages.
no pun
Yes.
intended. Yeah. um, and I think the like second emotional weight it like is in that scene where Matthew Fox reveals himself as Racer X. He is Speed has this moment. He's like, "But you knew all of my moves, and I knew all of your moves. Like, how could that be if you're not my brother?" And he's just like, "Well, you got it in you,
He's like,
kid, and
I'm
I'm
just an admirer.
yeah, like I'm waiting for that one special moment you have where you really shine." And he's like, "And I'll be there watching." And yeah, and then in the like final championship
Mhm.
race, there is that moment where Racer X is no longer in the race and he's watching it, and yeah, Speed has his moment and he wins the big old cup, the whole thing. That's it. That
Let's
was
talk about
phenomenal.
this. Let's talk about this final race
Mhm.
because it's
That's what I call pod racing.
this knocks it out of the park. This is the best race we've ever seen in anything.
Yeah.
Better than that. Better than the race to Witch Mountain. Any race you can think of. Death race. Uh, so we talked about how the first race of the movie, the one it opens on, is cutting between a lot of different things
Yeah.
as he is racing. And this one is it's doing something similar, but it's all like flashing back to like inspirational moments he's had throughout the movie, which
Mm-hmm.
is a common enough tactic in film. As you were approaching the final goal, you would think
The
back on,
montage thing to
yeah,
build them up.
yeah, but it's, and this one is like quicker, it's more, not more frantic, but like it's quicker, it's more chaotic, like it's building towards something. Like the
Mm-hmm.
energy in the final battle, not the final battle, the final race. In any other movie, this
The
may have been a
final
battle. Right.
countdown.
Like it's building towards all of this. Like it's just hammering towards it. And like all the cuts are quicker and the emotions are ramped like way up. It's
Yeah.
like the initial race of the movie just like tightened, just like compressed. Like it's like become a pearl. Like if the early one was a bunch of sand, it's a pearl now. It's so tightly compressed and energetic and emotional. All the emotions are so high in this thing. And all like it's so much more colorful and like all the there's all the neon and all the lights are flashing and there's like twice as many announcers screaming around him. Like
Yeah.
it's huge and it culminates in this moment where he makes it. He crosses the finish line like he's driving towards the racing flag and like every color and motion blur and graphic and speed line and everything around him just dissolves and he's driving just straight into a red and white checkerboard.
Yeah.
I can't even describe the thing, but this is the most concentrated feeling of victory I have ever experienced in a movie. Like watching this gave me literal chills. Like everything dissolves. It's actual trappings of the world are nothing. It's only the feeling. It's only feeling and color and shape. That's all that's left. And that's all you need to make your emotions that heightened.
Yeah.
Everything falls away. It's speed and it's the race flag. And you're just sitting on your couch shivering with tears in your eyes.
I don't know if I would say it was that intense for me. But yeah, I think that like back third of the film,
Mm,
and especially that final race, I think was the best that that film
mm.
was. I really liked it. I liked how the race went from like sand desert pod racing
Yeah.
looking scene to yeah the like snowy icy race, and then into the like sci-fi in the city race there. I loved it. But yeah, it does a great job of ramping up the tension of yeah, just like bombarding you with all of this emotion to be like, he's actually gonna do it. He's gonna be the one to win the race, despite it being fixed, and all of that stuff. And he's gonna topple this whole thing and make racing what it once was.
Mm.
Have the glory days. Yeah, and it almost kind of mirrors the start of the film too, but in a completely different way. Like where we get Speed's kind of flashbacks, then it also cuts to the like CEOs and stuff of the
yeah
conglomerates, and they're just dismay and anger. It's like, no, like this can't be happening.
Yeah, Hiroyuki Sanada's like, the deal is off, and he storms away.
Yeah, so I like that stuff a bunch, and I don't know what it is about racing, but I think it's a sport that a lot of people can easily understand. You don't have to know what an offsides means, or
you go in a circle.
Yeah, it's the fastest one wins, and that's
it.
Yep. And so I think a lot of racing movies or cartoons or stuff like that can really build up a lot of tension in just, oh, they are neck and neck. Oh, it's once they start to get into it's like, oh, it's actually better to be in second place or behind that in most of the race, and then and then zoom up. And well, like I like that stuff, and for some reason for me that just builds a lot of tension, and it gets me more interested in the film. And so yeah, like I like some of the stuff they did visually earlier on, but it wasn't as interesting to me until this like final big race, and I'm just like, this is fantastic. This is what I want. This is the thing that like makes me focus in and be like,
yeah,
okay, what is happening next? What is going to take place? Oh.
And I like that that's followed up with, so earlier in the movie, Speed and Trixie go drive his car and like park it somewhere, and they're just like looking out over the city, and they're talking about these upcoming races, and like, are you going to sign with Royalton Corporation? And he makes this promise to her that he's going to win the big Grand Prix, and he's going to be on the stage accepting his like giant silver trophy, and they're going to bring his family up. And he's like, because she's been complaining that, like kind of playfully complaining, like, oh, you're so obsessed with racing, you don't have any time for me. When was the last time you took me out? Like that thing of, I love you and I know you love me, and I respect what you're into, but like, give a girl a nice treat every once in a while. Give me some affection over here. And he's like, I will take you in my arms. I will dip you. And in front of all of these flash bulbs, all these reporters, all these cameras and dazzling lights, I'm going to kiss you in front of everybody. And the whole world's going to know you're my girl, Trixie. And he does this at the end. And like, it's this close up on them, and like all the flash bulbs in the background, like blur and smear, and they just become colors, and they become all these little heart shapes.
Yeah.
Which is similar to when he hits the finish line and the whole world becomes a racing flag. Like those both of those moments feel like victories of different kinds.
I do have to say, like, I think the thing for me in that scene would have been more effective if it didn't get interrupted in the way it did. I rolled my eyes so hard at that. I was just like, oh my god, this is ridiculous.
Yeah. It is.
It was like right as they were about to kiss, that's when the younger brother pops up with the chimp and is like, "Hey, if you're younger, you should close your eyes," or something like that.
Like they're both wearing doctor coats, and they're like, "This upcoming footage may be sensitive to viewers who have not had a cootie shot."
Yeah, and it's just like, oh, come on, just like let them have their moment, you know. And it's
but
just
we
like,
do like having that in the middle of it. It doesn't break it as much as. No, I don't think it breaks it as much as you would think. Because, like, I forgot about this bit watching this movie because I haven't seen this in like 10 years. And I'm like, oh, if there's this joke in it, well, that kind of breaks it. But then they go ahead and kiss, and I'm like, oh, no, this still delivers on everything it promised. I still get all of the emotion out of the kiss, even if it does stop for 10 seconds and give you a corny joke right before it. It works.
Yeah. Good stuff. I like, yeah. It's so much whiplash.
It is.
There's
another scene I want to talk about briefly.
Okay.
In the middle of the movie, this is when you are introduced to the Japanese brother whose name I don't remember, but the guy with the cool red streaks in his hair, and he's being tortured by, like, he's tied up in like this gang. Clearly this is like Royalton's thugs, like they have him kidnapped, like somebody's trying to like press him to like go their way, agree with their plan, you're gonna get this position in the race and only this position. This is what our plan says.
Name is
Teijo. Okay, it was T something, I knew that much.
Teijo Togokan. And he's
Teijo Togokan
by
Rain.
That's it, that's his name, Rain.
Yeah, I think he's like a pop star.
Yeah.
To the realm where you get to have only one name.
Songwriter. Korean.
So he's tied up and he's being tortured by this gang, and he's in this room, like he's in like this cool, like thug boss's office where it's got this kind of Victorian thing where like all the walls are just plastered with paintings, surrounded by paintings. The walls behind them you can see are also neon green, so like even this like real practical set is still cartoony as heck. And like the guy's got a tank full of piranhas, and he's gonna like feed him to the piranhas. This classic intimidation scene. And then like the thug boss gets a call that like an attacker is on the way, like attacker closing in, sir. And then it zooms out, and you find out this entire room they've been in is the trailer of a semi truck that's driving through this mountain road. Like, this is all inside a truck. This isn't a room in a building anywhere. And then all of these other thug guys pop up these paintings that are on the walls. And there's like a shoot hole behind each of them. There's like a little hole that lets them just like cock their gun and shoot at whatever car is following them.
Yeah.
I don't have like emotional things to say about this scene, but it's really cool that it just flips that on you. You're like, I didn't even know these were rules we were playing with. I didn't know a room could be inside of a car.
Yeah, that was an interesting one. Again, I keep going back to the word whiplash.
Yeah.
Because again, this is a scene that it's just like, okay, you're in some like fancy schmancy office or like some part of a big building that they like fixed up to make it look a little bit fancier and stuff, and then no, you're inside of an 18-wheeler and it's just like, whoa, wait, what?
Yeah.
Yeah, it was good stuff. Lots of action. We mentioned that it's like 2 hours and 20 something minutes.
Yeah, it's a lot.
It is a lot. I don't feel like it actually felt like that.
No.
Like, it felt a lot shorter because I think it continues to move at such a fast pace, and it keeps doing things like this, where you think you know, and it's like, oh, wait, what?
Yeah, and you're never in any one scene for too long. It's edited very well. There's a lot of things going on. You've got a variety. Yeah.
Indeed. I don't know. I actually have more to say on this film.
There's a lot to it. I really admire it. I understand that this is not something everybody can take. They're like, I'm not following this ride. Nope, I'm unbuckling my seatbelt. I'm climbing out of the car, going back inside my house. But for me, I'm like, yep, I'm buckled in. I brought
Oh.
snacks. Where are we going?
One thing I do want to talk about, a scene I don't remember or not if they actually, like, they started that thread and then just never addressed it. The scene where they get the package and it's a bomb.
Oh, yeah.
Like, whatever happened with that? Did they, like, figure out who it was? Haram?
That was a flashback because it's like
Yeah.
young Speed and like Rex is like, pop that package, and he like throws it into like Speed's little like soapbox racer. He snaps a broom in half so that he can shove the handle of the broom down on the gas pedal, and then just like the car just like rolls, it drives itself out into the street, and then it explodes. Right,
Like,
which is like, how do you know how to do all of this,
like
Rex?
that from the cartoons and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
But it's one of those things that I'm like, it seems like an Easter egg. It's like, oh, that's that villain from that one cartoon,
yeah, that's
you know?
shark repellent, yeah.
But I don't know who that was supposed to be.
General threat? I'm not sure.
Yeah, general threat.
I think because it was a flashback and it was something that happened like 10 or 15 years ago, I wasn't paying a lot of attention to it. I thought it was just a gag.
I feel like this movie did a lot of things to set itself up for a sequel, and then of course it just never got one.
I remember I did hear that like this is more stuff I learned from the podcast. This was a really close-knit production. Like everybody on the production team loved making this movie together. Like the Racer family was like a real family. They liked working together and they were so excited. Like, yes, let's do more. Everybody was on board to do more. And then the movie did not do well. Despite every Wilkinson going to see it in the theater. All of us went. The whole family.
Yeah, it's just, yeah. It's a lot.
Mm-hmm.
It's a lot to take in.
Mm-hmm.
So, because like I think that's. I think people were expecting like a more realistic take, not necessarily like a gritty, like the dark, gritty reboot of Speed Racer that we've all been waiting for. No, just like
Blank Check pointed out that this movie did come out a couple months before The Dark Knight.
Right, yeah.
Like, yeah. And it came out like the same week, like the week before. Yeah, and it came out like the week before or after Iron Man, which is also on the more grounded side, especially like in the beginning before it's like, well, you get these magic rocks and you put them in a glove and then half of Earth dies. But no, this is full on absolute cartoon logic.
Yeah. Interesting one, that's for sure.
Mm-hmm.
Do you want to move on to recommendations?
Yeah, another thing they were talking about on Blank Check, really just go listen to this podcast episode. You might have to scroll back a while. I forget when it's from. But just look up Blank Check, a wonderful back catalog. Can't recommend it enough.
By the way, you've mentioned Blank Check a ton.
Yes.
I haven't checked it out, but Griffin Newman was on one of the video game podcasts that I listened to. Apparently, he's a huge fan of all the Lego video games, and he's like an encyclopedic knowledge of all of the like Lego video games. And I was just like, that's amazing. Like, what a weird thing to be into, but I love it.
He's an encyclopedia of lots of things. At the end of every episode of Blank Check, they play a box office game where they're like, okay, the week this movie came out in theaters, this is what rank it was at. So like David, the one co-host, gives Griffin this. Like, okay, this came out this week. It came in number 3. What was the rest of the top 5? And Griffin can just rattle them off. He's like, well, number 1 was this, 2 was this. And he'll like do some of the math like, okay, mid-May release, number 4 is going to be a holdover, a movie that came out in April that year. It's still doing pretty well. Like he remembers this stuff.
Wild.
And might take him a couple clues, but he's like, yeah, it was this. even going way back into like the 90s or something, he can round out what the top 5 was.
He had that on the set of them filming The Tick. That I forget his. Well, is it that? I can't remember now if he was talking to the actor who played the Tick in the Amazon show or Patrick Warburton when he's done stuff with him. But one of them, he said the only thing he would talk to him about was the Lego games, and the guy was just like, "Are you serious, dude? Like, my kid likes those games. Why are you talking to me about them?" And it was because he was a voice actor in one of them, and so he just like was like, "What was it like recording for these games and stuff like that?" And he's just like, "Talk to me about anything else." Like,
this is the part of my career that you focus on.
Yeah.
This episode of Blank Check talks about it's their guest JD Amato, who's there for that episode, talks about how this movie was way ahead of its time, like, and sort of helped to bring in an era where things in movies can be very stylized and very heightened and very like vibrant and cartoony, and like they named Scott Pilgrim versus the World as an example. Yeah, which is also a movie that uses a lot of the visual trappings of the stuff it's inspired by. It's very comic booky. It's very video gamey. Like, you've got things like the little panels that pop up to say like, this person, age this. Or like when he's fighting, he has like the lives that he loses. There's the life bar up at the top of the screen. But this also made me think of, you know, my personal favorites, the Guardians of the Galaxy movies, which are very not as cartoony, but they are brightly colored, like really larger than life. The basic premise of them is preposterous. It's like, okay, we've got a talking raccoon and a giant tree man who does talk, but only says his own name. Silly, but executed very artfully and so heartfelt.
Okay, that's a good recommendation. I think for me, the one, this was also something that I pitched this past week. Go watch Redline.
Ah, yes.
An animated movie, all about racing, but it's all hand animated, and it is vibrant. It is wild. It reminds me a lot of the end race in this film, where there's the like corporate people involved watching the race and all of this. Like that end scene was just like, I wonder which one came out first, because this is like oddly reminiscent of that. But yeah, it's visually stunning. I think you. If you just want to watch something to marvel at the way it looks, go watch Redline. Fantastic film. I also want to recommend an anime called IGPX.
I don't know this one.
It's a little known one. It was on Toonami actually back in the day, and Toonami, I believe it was kind of an original production. They teamed up with some Japanese studio to help make this show, and it was like for Toonami specifically. And it's a show about these people that race these giant mechs. It's like, what if instead of like instead of a Gundam show out in space where it's about war is bad and stuff like that, it's like, what if we race them instead?
Hold on. So when you say racing mechs, is this like a Gundam that is running?
They are on like skates, so they're on like roller blades,
Whoa,
kind of stuff.
I was really excited to just see a bunch of giant robots just run, do nothing but run.
They skate. I don't think they're all humanoid though, so there's some that might be more like spider
gotcha.
like and stuff stuff like that. But yeah, they're on these race tracks, but while they're on the race tracks, they can fight. So it does have this like added layer on there that it's not just okay, who's in number 1, who's in number 2, now that guy's in number 2. It's just like, oh, that guy punched out that guy, he exploded that guy, he chopped off his arm, oh my god.
Oh, I can see that.
Yeah. So it's a lot of fun. I like that one a lot.
Neat.
Last thing I want to recommend is also Battle Angel Alita. The recent movie, which also does that kind of like live action mixed with like CGI and stuff like that, does not really focus on the racing.
There's racing in it?
Oh yeah.
Oh.
So it's more so in the world that they live in. They have this sport that they compete in and stuff.
Okay.
And it is a similar thing where there's like this big race track. The robots and stuff that are on that can fight and all that stuff, but there's also like a ball that I think they have to like get into a hoop or something. I'm not sure, but yeah, it's a similar type of thing, but in the manga, it focuses a lot more on the racing, or at least there is a lot more of it. So I would recommend going to check out the manga of Battle Alita, which is all on Comixology Unlimited.
Neat.
Those are my recommendations.
Cool. What a variety. All right, Kyle, it's time for pitches, which you and I discussed previous to this. So my goal was, I'm a big MCU person. We've thoroughly covered this, but I haven't read a lot of comics. And like, there's characters that I love on screen that I've never read a page of in the comics. Or if I had, it's been like a really odd side story of theirs. This was my goal. I'm like, I'm going to get some good Marvel comics. And I did a lot of research because I don't know comics. And I came to you and I'm like, I have 2. I ran out of time. I only have 2.
Comics so
I'm going to pitch you 2 things, and then I guess you're going to decide if you want either of those 2 things, or if you want to pick a third thing, because I told you I could. I told you could. I'm like, if you just have a third one that you like that fits this parameter, just tell me we're going to do it. I tried. Okay. So we've talked recently that I really do not know the Fantastic Four very well. That's a big blind spot for me. I saw the initial movie once or twice, and I know plenty of parody versions of the Fantastic Four, but I do not know them personally, and I would like to.
Sure.
So I went looking for Fantastic Four stories, and I realized I didn't have to look further than my own backyard. It's the beginning. It's the beginning of it. Like, I did a lot of research, and it's like, just start at the beginning. Here's a nice collected compendium of them. Like, okay, can't argue with that. Yeah. So I am pitching to you. This is collected under Fantastic Four Masterworks Volume 1. You can find this on Comixology Unlimited. This collects issues 1 through 10, back from 1961, from Stan Lee and Jack Kirby. The original, the starting point, Marvel's first family.
Good stuff.
I didn't look up a plot synopsis of this because I'm like, oh, it's what we know, I bet. The origin story we know. This is what it's going to be.
From what I can say, I have not read this, but this is often considered the start of the Marvel universe in the comics.
Yes.
They are Marvel's first family. So yeah, we'll get the origin story and stuff like that, but considering these are comics from the 60s, they are a very different style, and they will pack a lot in. Yeah,
I know they can be dense.
Issue. Yeah. Very
so
dense.
Who knows how much is going to be in these 10 issues? We could go all across the galaxy through time and space, or just be in a tower in New York City while these people try and figure out what the heck, I can stretch now?
Right,
Why
yeah.
can't I see myself in the mirror? I'm invisible. Can I hug anyone? I'm a rock man. And the fire problems also. Okay. So pitch number 1, Fantastic Four, collected under the Masterworks, Volume 1. Pitch number 2. So I've found, going back and rewatching some of the MCU movies, my favorite part of Infinity War is the storyline that's got like Iron Man and Doctor Strange and Spider-Man and half the Guardians. And I watched Thor Ragnarok and I'm like, the Doctor Strange part is also my favorite part in this movie.
Nice.
I just sort of, like, the more I think about it, the more time progresses, I'm like, heck, I really love Doctor Strange. I should read a Doctor Strange. So I would like to pitch to you The Oath.
I knew it.
Right. Like, I had heard this before as being like a big Doctor Strange story or like a very influential one.
Yeah.
Like, a lot of the visuals that the movie pulls from are from this story. And it's only 5 issues. It's collected all in one neat, concise graphic novel. And this is from 2007 by Brian K. Vaughan and Marcos Martin, which is a Marvel Comics name if I've ever heard one. And I think he dies and then has to solve his own murder as a ghost.
There you go. Sounds like a very Doctor Strange type of thing.
Yeah, yeah. So that's the 2 that I had time to find this morning. So would you like to select either of those 2? Or I told you I wanted to find a Spider-Man story and couldn't find one in time. So I allowed you the opportunity to just supply a Spider-Man story and tell me we're going to do it.
I will skip out on supplying a Spider-Man story, and I will say, for knowing nothing about comics and me knowing how confusing they are, that was a valiant effort.
Thank you.
So I will stick with the ones that you pitched. Yeah, because comics are strange. We've read stuff where it's like we read volumes 1 and 2 of Dan Salot's She-Hulk and stuff like that. But when you actually look at what issues that's collecting, it's like some random number through some random number. So for someone who doesn't know that stuff, it's just like, where do I start? I don't know.
Right, and like every article I looked up gave me like the runs and issue numbers. I'm like, what graphic novels what trade paperbacks does this translate to? Like, what like 2 volumes can I pick up from Comixology Unlimited that will have this?
Comics are confusing. Sometimes you just have to search like volume 1, the character you like, and then the like person it's written by.
Okay.
And they'll just be like, okay, that was the first one that he wrote. But then it's also confusing because sometimes there's 2 volume 1s.
Mm-hmm.
Anyways, I think I've actually had both of these comics on my list of things to eventually pitch one day.
Oh, good.
But I would really, really like to go back to the original.
Yeah, it's about time.
Because I also haven't read very many Fantastic Four stuff, except when they're in some comic that I'm writing that is not Fantastic Four. So I would like to check it out, especially since that is like the start of the Marvel. Of the Marvel universe. So it'll be fantastic to go check it out.
Yeah, I'm excited to
Jack Kirby.
Right, to read like the original The Dream Team. Yeah.
Yeah.
And I read something in one of these articles that said throughout the run of a comic, like the creative team might change several times. They worked on this for like over 100 straight issues.
Oh yeah.
Wow, I didn't know it was that sustained. That's really impressive.
Indeed. So I'm excited for this one a lot.
Yeah.
I think it'll be good. I don't think we've gone back to read older comics. Like I guess the oldest like Marvel or DC comics we've read was Infinity Gauntlet, I think.
Yeah. What year was that? Like,
That was 80s, I believe.
yeah, it'd be that or it'd be Lethal Protector. I don't forget how old
Protector
that
was
one.
maybe
Oh, that one might have been
90s.
like, yeah, that one might have been getting up in the early 90s. Okay. See, like, I go far back and, like, I don't know. It's like, it's all one. I'm lost in the quantum realm. All times are one.
Yeah.
I.
Yeah, these I think are from the 60s, so
1961.
yeah, yeah, 60 years ago.
God,
Wild.
that's so. My dad couldn't even add two numbers together back then. He was 6 years old. He was learning to write his name down. That's how old this is.
I'm excited for that. Let's see. Actually, open up the calendar because
Yeah. Oh yes,
we don't want
yes.
to forget that next week we're not actually doing Fantastic Four.
Right. This is not for next week.
Yeah. So we probably just confused the mess out of all of you. Next week, we are going to be covering Season 2 of Mr. Robot. We're going to be continuing our coverage on that show once a month. At the end of the month, we do these special episodes where we pick something a little bit longer and follow it through to its completion, or to as much of it is out.
Yeah.
Currently. So we're going to be watching Season 2 of Mr. Robot and recording that one next week. And the week after that is when we will be covering Fantastic Four 1 through 10.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, that'll be exciting. Be on the lookout for all of that stuff. Melissa?
Yeah.
Where can they find you on the internet?
You can find me on Twitter and Instagram at WilkyWit. That's WILKYWIT.
You can find me at Yo Kyle Springer on Twitter and Instagram. You guys can stay up to date with our podcast or any of our shows at the Whatnauts on Twitter. Go like, share, subscribe. I think we are just barely at 70 subscribers on YouTube. So if you guys like what we do, please subscribe to us on YouTube. We would love to bump that number up as we get ever closer to 100 subscribers.
Mm-hmm.
Because you never really know how many of those people subscribed are bots or stuff like that. But once we reach 100, I think we get our custom URL.
That'd be handy.
Would be nice, yeah. So help us out, spread the word, like, share, subscribe, do all of that stuff. But we will see you guys next week. 2 of Mr. Robot has been episode 108 of the review show. We'll be back next week. Bye.
Bye.
Thank you so much for checking out our podcast. We hope you enjoyed it. Leave us a comment down below if you guys liked Speed Racer or not, and what your racing name would be. I think mine would be Fasty McPhee. There you go. Fasty McPhee is what it would be. In the meantime, go subscribe to our channel and go watch one of our other videos right down there. Until next time, bye.